Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. Yankees losses keep piling up. They lose 2 of 3, lose the rubber match to the Houston Astros, and Max Fried's struggles continue. A lot more than just that, obviously, and I've sung Max Fried's praises for a long time, and really through June, he was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. I mean, very much so. Very much in the Cy Young conversation at the very least, and really ever since the start of July, really last 7 starts, he's not been very good. He's battled in some of them and kind of tried to make the most of it. And look, offense was horrible in this last game here against Jason Alexander. No, not Seinfeld Jason Alexander, but that just kind of makes the whole thing all the more messed up. The actual pitcher really is a journeyman type guy who no hit the Yankees through 5 1/3 innings, only allowing 1 hit, gave up no runs in 6. So it wasn't just Fried, but I feel like, the Yankees desperately need starters to get, even into the 6th. Like 5 innings is like the fucking maximum for this rotation. It's not just the Yankees, it's baseball as well. But you needed him to come through and he didn't. And look, the Yankees were able to split the first 2 games. Now, could they have won both? Yes. They could have also lost both too, but they could have won both. But the way I saw the pitching matchups, like it's set up well, you know, Max Fried at home against Jason Alexander. On paper, that sounds good, but the Yankees, this is a team that's not playing well for a while now. It's been a couple of months, really. It's been about at least 2 months of just not good baseball, and that's a pretty big sample size, right? So we can't say, like, oh, it's just a stretch. This is what they are. And so the Yankees are 62 and 56. They are out of the division by 6.5 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays. So that is looking bleak with 44 games left. So not good there. And then look, as far as the wild card race goes, they barely are in a playoff spot. It's come close. They sit a half game ahead of the Guardians, tied on the loss side, I might add, for that final playoff spot. So Yankees are 2.5 games behind the Red Sox. They are 3.5 games behind the Mariners. Like, this is kind of a wild card or bust situation at this point. Not to say that they couldn't catch the Blue Jays, but why should anyone believe that? You really shouldn't, based on the way the Yankees have been playing. Really not doing the job at all against decent teams. And that's continuing here. And the Yankees' schedule at some point does lighten up, and they're going to have to take advantage of that. And that's going to start with a series coming up home against the Twins, which we'll talk about. But I was actually at the first game of the series. And that one, Devin Williams ends up being the storyline again. So it's kind of crazy. There was one transaction, as like to talk about that early in the episode. And it's from an injury that occurred in that Friday game late. Ahmed Rosario banged into the wall in right field. He came in as a pinch hitter and then stayed in the game for defense. Goes in the aisle with a left SC joint sprain. So a shoulder injury for Rosario. He says he thinks he'll be back like 10-day minimum type deal. So it's not going to be out for long, but it's rough. In terms of Rosario and Slater, who acquired here to, give the Yankees some more versatility, flexibility, good bats versus lefties. Slater is probably going to be out for about 4 to 6 weeks. Rosario probably, hopefully more, a couple weeks. And they recall JC Escarra, which makes sense. I've said numerous times that ideally with the way that this structure is in this roster, having that third catcher in Escarra actually is pretty helpful. So that makes sense. And should open some things up in the way of like more pinch hit situations where Austin Wells would be pinch hit for. Primarily, it kind of gives you that freedom. With Ben Rice kind of having a unique role on this team as being kind of a hybrid between catcher and first base. So that's the one transaction. But for the Yanks, it's hard to feel good about where things are. The playoffs are no guarantee. And they just really aren't very good. Now, should their record be better than what it is? Yeah, I'd say so. they've had a lot of really bad losses, but that also speaks to something. And let's just go right at game one. And I was at this game. This was the first game that I had been to since the Mets series, where the Yankees at that point, that was kind of like the high point of the year to me. Leaving that game after the Yankees had beat um, the Mets 2 of 3, and I went to the Friday and Sunday games. They won both games. It felt like at that time, all right, like you're feeling good about things as far as the way they were playing. Um, this seemed like, if nothing else, Yankees would have a decent shot of, being the best team or one of the best teams in the American League. And now that's just simply not the case at all, as they are clinging on for dear life just to make the playoffs, which is fucking pretty goddamn embarrassing, honestly. So game one, it was actually a good game. Like it had, it had its intrigue for sure, but they lose, and Devin Williams is a big part of it yet again. Um, let's talk about the pitchers. Cam Schlittler, it wasn't pretty, but yet a lot of times he's able to make it work. Like, I think Schlittler, like, let's say some of the playoffs started now. Cam Schlittler is your number 5 starter right now. There's nothing wrong with that, like, totally. But I give him credit for just finding his way through. He's hasn't really typically been pummeled. The overall numbers aren't great on the whole, but I like sort of the grittiness that I've seen from him. And 5 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts for Schlittler. For the Astros, it was Hunter Brown, who really had an easy time of it through 5 innings, and the Yankees finally got to him in the 6th. It's a no decision for Hunter Brown. 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Um, and the one big mistake that Cam Schlittler made was giving up a home run to, you guessed it, Jose Altuve. And of course, Altuve and Correa, recently reacquired, were pivotal players for the Houston Astros against the Yankees. That's just the way it is. And that's why it was disappointing to see Correa come back to Houston. But for Altuve, look, I understand from the fans' perspective, me being one of them, as far as, the booing and yelling at Jose Altuve. I get it. I do. But here's the thing. It's backfiring. Like, I understand going into it saying, hey, like, boo Altuve, right? Like, he is the poster child for everything that is the Houston Astros in the last decade. And Altuve, though, he just kills the Yankees. Plain and simple, in the biggest ways possible. Like, just owns them. And so I don't think it's ever going to change in terms of the fans. And again, I don't blame the fans, but it's just kind of, I don't, it's certainly not helping anything at all. So, um, Altuve, hits that 2-run homer right off the bat, 20th homer of the year to give the Astros a 2-0 lead. Um, and so the Yankees can gain no traction in each game in this series. The Astros would homer in the first inning. And I've talked about this, where for Yankee starting pitching, the first inning has been an issue, more so than anything else, right? Like, it's a matter of not, giving them that length and pitching deep into games. And it's also kind of, giving up runs early. So as far as the lineup was concerned for this one, Giancarlo Stanton would be on the bench. Aaron Judge seems somewhat close to being back in the outfield, but not quite yet. I'm hoping that sometime in the next road trip, right? I think it's a little bit too soon to say, like, this Twin Series coming up, but hopefully either in St. Louis or Tampa, Judge be back in the outfield, because it really makes a big difference. He's actually been he hasn't been quite right since he's been back. And Stanton continues to look good, whether he starts or he pinch hits. So, like, Stanton's batting lineup to me is imperative, however it may be. Honestly, even over Judge right now. So, but yeah, as far as it goes, it was a very lefty heavy lineup. So no Stanton, no Goldschmidt, as far as like the main guys. And really, Goldschmidt right now, like, he's not playing much first Fridays. And I do agree with that. Ben Rice is seeing the majority of the playing time. Ben Rice played all 3 games of this series, first base, then catcher, then first. And so Wells, he played the first and third games of the series. So yeah, Altuve is that 2-run homer, gives the Astros the lead. You had a Ben Rice ground rule double early, but really after that, even though Hunter Brown at times was hit hard, he really was able to kind of stop the damage, or not even damage, stop anything at all from happening. Cam Smith gets what could have been an RBI single, but Cody Bellinger is able to throw out Taylor Trammell at home. So Schlittler kind of catches a break there. Nice play by Bellinger in right field, throwing the guy out at the plate. Keeps it at 2-0. Yuri De Los Santos comes on, and De Los Santos really has been pretty good for a bit of time here. Really, since he's come back from the injured list, De Los Santos is looking solid. Uh, he gave the Yankees 1 2/3 scoreless innings. In between that, though, the Yankees tie the game. Ryan McMahon with a leadoff walk. Austin Wells with a double down the line. Really, McMahon should have been sent home by Rojas. Wasn't, but it doesn't come back to bite them. Trent Grisham does not get the run in. He flies out. But then Ben Rice with an RBI single makes it 2-1. And then Aaron Judge with an RBI single makes it 2-2. So Hunter Brown at that point is out of the game, and they bring on Bennett Sousa, the lefty. Cody Bellinger has not really been deterred by left-handed pitching. However, one of the worst at-bats I've seen from Cody Bellinger in a long time, and arguably it may have cost him the game. He strikes out. And Bellinger is a guy I like up in those situations, but it was bad there. And then Jazz Chisholm Jr., who's struggled quite a bit lately, he flies out. So the score remains tied at 2. The 7th inning is a combination of De Los Santos and Duvall to keep the score tied at 2. Sousa pitches a scoreless 1-2-3 7th. Ahmed Rosario pitches for Dominguez within that inning. In the top of the 8th, Duvall with a clean 1-2-3 himself. So 4-out situation for Duvall. Bottom of the 8th, Yankees don't do anything against Brian Abreu. And then top of the 9th, Luke Weaver comes on and does the job. And so now we head to the bottom of the 9th. Josh Hader comes on and he goes 1-2-3. So the Yankees really not able to touch the Astro bullpen at all. Sousa, Abreu, Hader. And then we go to the top of the 10th. And at this point, the Yankees go to Devin Williams, which is very, very unfortunate. And look, there's a couple of things in play here. I understand the disdain towards Aaron Boone. I get it. Like, I think his decision's been bad lately. The team play has been bad, everything. But I also understand here where if they were trying to stay away from Mark Lauder Jr., which it sounds like they were, and whether you believe that or not, it's another story, but that's what they claimed. You didn't have that many options. Now, look, Luke Weaver, could you have started him in the 10th? I suppose, but he had thrown about 20 pitches. It just, on the one hand, I could go crazy on Boone. I could, and I don't have a problem for people that did. But how about Devin Williams just not being a total piece of shit? Every fucking time lately that the Yankees need him, it's been an absolute unmitigated disaster for Devin Williams. And the ironic thing is this: in Game 3, in a fucking totally no pressure situation, he strikes at the side. So for Devin Williams, it's a matter of the guy is just, he can't handle big spots, and especially in New York as well. It's a recipe for disaster. And here's what happens in the 10th. Wild pitch to start out that moves Altuve over to third. So a bad start to begin with. Then Carlos Correa RBI single. Of course, that's what happens. Correa getting done versus the Yankees. It's happened time and time again. Makes it 3-2. Then Christian Walker grounds out. They hit the force at second. Then Yainer Diaz hits what should have been a base hit, but Christian Walker without the best baseman. This is where Rosario gets hurt right. It goes off of his glove, off the wall, and goes right to Grisham, and they throw Walker out at second. Walker should have been a little bit more halfway. So Devin Williams gets crushed there and catches a huge break. It's no harm, no foul. They get the out. No advancement. However, and like I always say in these extra inning games, you can give up one run as the home team. If you give up one run, it still puts you in a position to very well tie the game, at least. But what does Devin Williams do after everything bad he's done? He gives up a 2-run homer to Taylor Trammell. Taylor Trammell has bounced around between a lot of teams. I want to say last season he spent a little bit of time on the Yanks. Third homer of the year for Trammell makes it 5-2 Astros. So that, a lot of people left at that point, and just terrible. And Devin Williams has been getting booed the whole inning from the wild pitch on forward. So we go to the bottom of the 10th, and Josh Hader, he threw a lot of pitches in this one. Hader, he was definitely kind of towards the end of the line, but makes it to the finish line. And he would have been available for Game 3, but the Astros ended up taking a big lead, so he ended up not pitching there. But In the bottom of the 10th, the Yankees make it a little bit interesting. And this is why I was mad that Devin Williams did what he did. Ahmed Rosario flies out. So it's interesting that even though Rosario goes on the injured list, um, he actually, and that I guess was a good sign in and of itself. He actually hit a deep fly ball there. So it showed that he wasn't terribly hurt, but then he didn't play at all in game two, which is a little bit curious. And then he went on the IL before game three. Anthony Volpe with an RBI single, his only hit of the series. So Volpe, the defense has been good lately, which is what you're hoping for, obviously, but the offense is cooled down just a little bit. But this is what Anthony Volpe is as a hitter. So you're just hoping for the good defense. So Volpe RBI single there, though, makes it 5-3. And then Goldschmidt pinch hits for McMahon. He works a long at bat against Hader, but ultimately flies out. Then Stanton pitch hits for Wells, and Stanton keeps the game alive with a walk. Makes it first and second, 2 out for Trent Grisham, who lefty. Josh Hader's a former teammate of his, I think, in Milwaukee and San Diego. And in fact, I'm wondering if they were probably part of the same deal that went from Milwaukee to San Diego. But I digress. Trent Grisham lines out to center. Hit well. This was not the last we hear from Trent Grisham. He get a little bit of redemption, but here he gets the last out, and the Astros win 5-3 in 10 innings in a game where, look, Yankees could have easily won the game. Not saying they deserved to win, but it was right there for them. But Devin Williams, yet again, is at the forefront of Yankee loss. Game two, you had old timers day before game two, and this was a game they'd win. Wasn't without its ugliness, but they do win the game. And Luis Gil is a good positive. He had a win taken away from him, but gets a no decision. 5 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts for Gil. A much better outing than the one against the Marlins, and a real good sign. Yankees need Luis Gil to be good. And so then the Astros, it was Framber Valdez. Yankees did well against Valdez, very much. And, it was surprising. Actually, numbers against Valdez career-wise are pretty good for the Yankees end. What I'm thinking of is that 2022 playoff outing where I'm pretty sure he just shut him down in Houston. It was maybe game 2. It was either game 1 or 2. I think Verlander might have went 1, Valdez 2. And I think he really shut them down. That's the one that kind of stays with me. And I want to say there must have been another 1 or 2 good outings he had. But yeah, the overall numbers were not great. And here, 5 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, and 1 strikeout. Like a really bad outing by Valdez. Just could have been worse. On the bench, this one was Jason Dominguez, who ironically would come in for defensive purposes because Giancarlo Stanton started the game in right field. I got to be honest with you. Honestly, I know this kind of sounds crazy. At Yankee Stadium, I'd probably rather have Bellinger in left, Stanton in right than Dominguez in left, Bellinger in right. Or at least it's something to think about because that left field is tougher. Where Stanton in right, it's not what you want at all. But not as much damage can happen there where left field is a lot tougher of a spot at the stadium. Ben Rice would catch, and it would be a day off for Jazz Chisholm Jr. Jazz would sit in favor of Jose Caballero. So Caballero getting the start at second base for Jazz, who needed a day off. I mean, he just has been, not good lately. And in the first inning, first batter, Jeremy Pena. Hits his 12th homer of the year off of Gil. So you're thinking, here we go again. Kind of a tough inning for Gil, but only 1-0. And at the bottom of the first, the Yankees get it going. Goldschmidt single, Judge walk, Bellinger single, bases loaded walk Stanton, sac fly Rice, makes it 2-1, and then a Volpe double play. So the Yankees really could have been up by more than that, but they take a 2-1 lead. And then we don't see scoring until the 4th inning. Bit of a tough situation for Stanton right on a Sanchez double in the way that, I don't blame him for not catching it, but he was a little bit too close to the wall, right? Maybe if he had played back a bit, I think there's a chance maybe he holds him to a single. Either way, double for Sanchez, and then a 1-out RBI single for Carlos Correa ties it up at 2. But in the bottom of the 5th, another good inning for the Yanks, similar to the first inning. Judge walk, Bellinger single, RBI single to Stanton, who continues to rake. And then a double play by Ben Rice that scores a run. And honestly, with Volpe on deck striking out, whatever. I mean, no RBI for Rice, but gets it done. 4-2 Yankees at this point. Gil pitches into the 6th, which is a rarity for the Yankees. Mark Leiter Jr. finishes out the 6th with a double play. They then go straight to Weaver. Look, could you have maybe stuck with Leiter Jr.? Possibly. But you go with Weaver, he gets a 1-2-3 inning. Now, could you have started Weaver for the 8th? I would have considered that, but they've been very much trying to go 1 inning at a time, and there's a risk to that. Camilo Doval comes in the eighth, as well as that defensive switch where Dominguez comes in to replace Stanton. And it was a really, really rough inning for Duvall in many ways. A leadoff walk to Victor Caratini. Then after a strikeout, it looked to be a potential inning double play, and they get no one out. A ground ball by Sanchez to Duvall. That was a poor throw to Volpe. He can't keep his foot on the bag, and everyone's safe. And then you have a Jose Altuve RBI single to cut it to 4-3. But to make matters worse, the Dominguez throw home goes past Ben Rice and behind to the backstop. And so the runners advance to second and third. Now, Dominguez, I'm not going to give him so much blame here. McMahon could have cut it off. It went past Rice. It went past Doval. And if they had just kept it, the runner was not going to go to third, right? It wasn't one of those Dominguez plays where, okay, he throws it through and they were going to, he was staying. Sanchez was going to stay there, but now the runners advance. And then it's a Carlos Correa walk. And so Duvall's day is done. Not good. We've seen some good from Duvall. We've also seen not good for him. He's been a little bit shaky, honestly. But David Bednar, who has really been mostly very good, comes in and walks Christian Walker. So now you're thinking, okay, this could blow up. It's 4-4. But then Bednar is able to strike out Diaz and Trammell to keep it tied at 4. Bottom of the eighth rolls around, and the lefty Brian King comes on, and with 2 out and a full count, Trent Grisham, lefty, home run. 21st home run of the year, makes it 5-4 Yanks, and Grisham has just been the king of clutch. 4 home runs this year in the 8th inning or later that have either tied it for the Yanks or given them the lead. And it's, he has, even beyond that, I just feel like Grisham is a guy that you kind of want out there late in games. He gives you a good at-bat. And it's just amazing how last year, I know he wasn't that good last year, but he was pretty solid in August when Stanton was out. And they just, once everyone was healthy, Grisham was just lost. Even though Verdugo didn't give you anything, Grisham was a non-factor. This year, he's been one of the Yankees' best players. And that was a huge home run, gives the Yankees a 5-4 lead, and David Bednar finishes out the ninth. He gets the win. So Bednar goes to 3-5. That record includes his time with Pittsburgh. But yeah, Bednar has been really, really good. And Grisham's been really clutch. And you're thinking, okay, like, let this carry into the next day somehow. But that's the Yankees. That's not their way lately. The Yankees, there's no traction of any positivity. It just ends quickly. And the on-paper matchup was there. Max Fried against Jason Alexander at home. And the Yankees, this was a pretty ho-hum win for the Astros. Unacceptable. Max Fried loses to drop to 12-5. 5 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. His ERA is at 2.94, which I'd say that's great. Like if you had told me at the start of the year, August 10th, 2.94. However, I mean, it's been, I believe he's maybe had like a 6 ERA in his last 7 starts, thereabouts. It's been bad for Fried. For the Astros, Jason Alexander picks up the win, goes to 3-1, 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. Just a terrible outing from the Yanks all the way around. On the bench would be Stanton and Goldschmidt here. And right away, it's Altuve. Third batter of the game, 2 out. A lot of 2-out issues for Max Fried, which is frustrating. Altuve, 21st homer of the year, makes it 1-0 Astros. Then in the third, with 2 out, a single by Altuve and a double by Christian Walker on a play that Jason Dominguez, I think he could have caught the ball, but even if he didn't play the ball well off the wall, and there was no play at home. Altuve scores easily with 2 out. Again, the Dominguez frustrations continue. And I really think if the Yankees doing the playoffs, which is a big if at this point, I really think that Dominguez, if they're fully healthy, Dominguez is going to be on the bench. Like, that's just the sad truth of it. Like, against lefties, he'll, of course, be on the bench, but even versus righties, he will be on the bench. There's just no way around it. And part of it is because you can't trust him defensively. Aaron Boone's ejected in the third when Ryan McMahon was up. It's interesting. That pitch itself that he was ejected on actually wasn't that bad. It probably was a strike, but there was ones before that that were horrible. The Derek Thomas snap, he was bad. Calling a lot of low pitches that should have been balls for Jason Alexander, strikes. And so the frustration balls over. Boone gets ejected. Top of the fifth is where things get fucked up. Fried's in trouble. Pitch counts mounting. Bases loaded, 2 out, and it looked as if he struck out Cam Smith, but the ump, Derek Thomas, calls it a ball. Clear strike. Did he get thrown up by Almost trying to? I don't know why Almost tried to frame it. He didn't need to. I almost feel like that threw off the ump. And then a few pitches later, Cam Smith with a 2-run double makes it 4-0. And at this point, you're thinking, okay, that's huge. And the Yankees are fucked. And ultimately, they basically were. So Fried only goes 5 innings. Devin Williams pitches a 1-2-3, strike out the side 6. Go figure. Bottom of the 6th, Ben Rice breaks up the no-hitter, but then Judge double play. Brent Hedrick is able to go 2 innings for the Yanks. Hedrick's been pretty good for the most part. A lot of strikeouts as well. Pretty solid. I mean, a couple of walks today, but Hedrick's a guy that I would definitely keep up here. I mean, he deserves it, if nothing else, for what he's done here with the big club. But Bennett Sousa comes on, the lefty, who we saw Friday night, and a 1-out single for Chisholm Jr., pinch hit Stanton for Dominguez, gets a single, walk to Volpe, and they actually bring on the righty Brian Abreu. Even though McMahon and Wells were coming up, they go with the righty, and it works out. McMahon gets a pretty lucky sac fly. 3-1 count, chance to do damage. He pops it up, but not a great way Taylor Trammell caught the ball. And with Chisholm's speed at third, he scores to get the Yankees 1 run of the game, and then Austin Wells flies out. The Austin Wells struggles continue. He's had a really, really bad season, just really, really bad. Hedrick finishes at that 8th inning. Bottom of the 8th, leadoff walk to Grisham, but then nothing after that against Abreu. Top of the 9th, they bring on Tim Hill. I'm surprised it wasn't De Los Santos. Tim Hill was not very good against righties. He's a lefty specialist, and De Los Santos was warming up earlier in the game. Tim Hill gets beat up pretty good. Carlos Correa home run, because that hadn't happened yet. So, of course, 9th homer of the year makes it 5-1 Astros. Eventually, there would be an RBI single because the infield was drawn in. So Ramon Arias kind of dunks one in and makes it 6-1. Then a lucky sort of chop infield single by Mauricio Dubon makes it 7-1. And then Brian King comes on and strikes out the side to win it for the Astros. Astros win the series in Yankee Stadium. They'll play each other again in Houston, a little shy than a month from now. And so now the Twins come to town. Twins traded off a lot of players at the deadline, and so the roster doesn't look so good. However, lately, seems as if they've been playing with some fight. And sometimes that does happen. A lot of young players making their debuts. But here's also the thing. If there's one team the Yankees always dominate, it is the Minnesota Twins. And so if the Yankees do poorly here, that's a pretty big sign that Yankees may never be getting out of this. So as far as the pitching matchups go, it'll be rookie Zebby Matthews against Will Warren. On paper, that's advantage Yankees there. Will Warren's been mostly good lately, and especially at home. Game 2 is, in theory, another advantage Yankees. It's well, to be fair, it's TBD for the Twins versus Carlos Rodon. Now, Rodon, like Fried, has not been great lately, but, again, that's one that you look at with the potential win on your hands. In Game 3, that one is not advantage Yankees. That's Joe Ryan for the Twins, 11-5 with a 2.79 ERA versus Cam Schlittler. So the way I look at this, and again, it's more for fun. It's a fun exercise more than anything, is I look at it and I say, the first 2 games, the Yankees really got to win, because I think Game 3 is going to be challenging for sure. Joe Ryan has really been one of the better pitchers in the American League. So yeah, that's it. That's going to finish off the homestand after the Yankees with another disappointing series. They lose 2 of 3 games to the Houston Astros.